Welcome. For those of you who did not join us, we had a day full of chocolate and we're ready to do it all over again. And of course we are starting off with one of our dear favorites. This is Barb. She joins us from Arizona. She drove through the night yesterday and to come join us. She was like, guys, you did not tell me it was this cold. And I was like, we tried. But it's hard to adjust when you're, what's the temp there?
It was like a cool 45 when I got in the car, and then I got out to pump gas and it was 18. Oh. And I was in flip-flops, and I got some looks. And I was like, don't judge me.
We know that look. It's like all of us when we're coming up from St. George at spring break, and you get to about Fillmore, and you're like, wait, why did I wear shorts when I got here? So we know the feeling. We have those moments here too. But we are just so honored to have her. If you guys do not follow Barb on Instagram, pull your phones out right now. Join her on Instagram. She is one of those people who her whole purpose and just to get people to understand how to do this. And I think in the culinary world, that is one of those lost arts. There's a lot of people who work really hard on their recipes and they're like, this is mine, I'm not sharing it, I'm not gonna tell people how we do this. And then you get people like Barb and all of our instructors here who are like, no, I'm gonna share this. I want more people to do this, because the more people that do this, it just helps spread the love of the kitchen. And so Barb offers her recipes for free. She gives filling recipes. She shares packaging insights. She does all the things mixed with some dancing and some funny dress-ups, and it just makes you laugh, which I think we can all agree. We could all use a little bit of humor in our lives these days. But I was really inspired through Barb. We met her through Instagram during COVID when we were all stuck on our phones at home, and she was tagging us in things, and she's like, hey, I'm doing this giveaway with Orson Geeky, and I was like, oh, you are?
She's like, what did you do? So I know I'm buying
She's like, well, I bought it, but I'm going to share it, and I was like, oh, okay. So we were really blown away, but we instantly fell in love with her because she started doing max to teach her kids math. And that is truly how I learned fractions. I don't know about you guys, but when I could finally relate it to, oh, a half cup, a quarter cup, an eighth cup, I know this now. And so I can start looking at those things, and I just think it's so great to get our kids in the kitchen doing things that they will be able to use as useful information. And so she went from teaching max with her kids to a full-fledged business, and has now inspired and helped others to start their own Mac businesses. And so we just love having her here with us and sharing the love of the kitchen. I will be completely honest, I tried to make macs, it was probably about 10 years ago, and they looked nothing like this. And luckily at the time, they weren't really a thing yet, so I still smacked some filling in there, and I served them at my sister's baby shower, and people were like, what are these? And I was like, I don't know what because if I say they're max, then they'll look at the recipe and like, that's not what that looked like. Mine were flat and had no feet.
Like they're pancakes.
They were pancakes, but the buttercream in there made them delicious. So I've come a long way, and we've been able to take Barb's recipe and really try it out, and it works. And so I can tell you that you can start from not being able to do it, and they work beautifully. And so she's going to share with you guys her tips to do this, but most of all, I just hope you have fun. I hope you feel inspired today, and I hope that you go home and try this. And so we want you to all report back to us and let us know when you go and try these out, because I promise the little bit of rules that do apply to these,
just a few rules,
keep some people away from it, but I promise they're well worth it. So thank you for coming today, and it's all yours.
Perfect. Okay, like Heather said, I was not a Mac maker until I was a homeschool mom, and I don't know what the bigger gulp was of those two things, but it definitely wasn't the homeschool mom. So I tried my first batch and it worked out, and I had some confidence, and I was like, yeah, no. 2 through 17 did not work out, and I could have probably given up at that point because I'm a trained interior designer. That's what my degree's in. I could go back to work for that, no problem. But then I was like, oh no, this is getting personal now, and I cannot lose to this. So back to the kitchen I went. I R&D'd for hours and days and months and weeks, and about 8 months to the day I shared my recipe. Like she said, all my recipes are free, every single one. You don't have to subscribe, you don't have to do this. It's just right on our website, all of it. So hopefully you'll get there. I do make some pretty fun fillings. Lemon potato chips so far has been the fan favorite. But I really take the normal and I flip it up, turn it around, and create something new. So I get inspired by everyday flavors, much like you guys do. If I eat a great piece of pie or a cookie, or I even have tried a savory mac a time or two, and I just love recreating it into something that can be sandwiched inside 2 inches of shell. So today we're making chocolate macs. Now a lot of people can be really successful in regular macs and then completely fall on their face with chocolate macs. Do we know why? What would be your guess? The chocolate, right? So sometimes people are like, I want to make chocolate macs. Here's my Hershey syrup. Let's go at it. No. I want to make chocolate macs. I have like this really high buttery fat chocolate into the bowl. No. Sometimes people just, don't do the right voodoo dance before they start. I don't know what it is, but chocolate seems to trip a lot of people up. So today I am using this Brute cocoa, okay? It's found here in Gigi. In fact, I went home with a bag because the cocoa I was using may have been referred to trash cocoa by my friends here at Gigi. They're like, why are you using that? That's crap. And so I took a bag of this home. I have played around with lots of fun fillings with it. Today, you're gonna enjoy a salted caramel chocolate ganache mac. So I did a chocolate shell, as you see here. They're already prepared for you. And then we'll talk about the homemade caramel salted buttercream and then the chocolate ganache center. But let's show you the shells first. So a couple tips. Now, you can shout questions to me. I won't be offended at that. That's fine. I'd rather you leave here with way more than what you bargained for than way less, okay? But I will tell you that sometimes I don't double task well. Ask the toffee class last night when I literally forgot a main ingredient, and someone's like, so shouldn't you add that? I'm like, oh yeah, I should. And I ran over there and I added it. So I am really great answering questions, but sometimes I'm not great making eye contact with you where you feel like you can ask me the question. So just shout it out. I'm good with that. We're all friends. If you follow me on Instagram, you're like, she's a lot, and I get that. And so just know that it's like family here, right? Okay, so in our bowl goes room temperature egg whites. Why room temperature? I gotta make sure I don't talk too much and run this class over. Okay, I like the proteins in the egg whites to relax. If they're cold, who functions well when you're cold? Not this girl. Heck no. So I like room temperature egg whites. They don't need to be on the counter overnight. They don't need to be rested for 46, 72, 97. I don't know. No. Just pull them out of the counter first thing in the morning. Crack your eggs into your bowl, let it sit an hour or two, and then go. So I time everything, and in my recipe, I tell you the exact times so you can be successful. So in the bowl goes my vanilla. I usually use clear vanilla because, like I said, I'm an interior designer. Color's a big deal for me. So I want these vibrant, bright colors, so I always use clear vanilla. But what are we making today? Chocolate, and it's a natural color. So I don't mind using the darker vanilla today. So some of my followers are like, that's not clear. I know, I see your mind thought, and I told you the remedy, so we're good. Okay, so on to level 4, and the timer starts for 2 minutes. I know, I'm so exact, but this is how you're gonna be successful. And then I shake in my 88 grams of sugar. Like I said, this recipe is on my site. You may have to enter your email to get this recipe, but I will not spam bot you. I don't tell you about the 9 fruits that detox my body. I won't sell you on some shoes I hate. Like, I am pretty, you get what you see and you see what you get. So anyways, I shake the sugar in slowly so it's incorporating. I don't want to dump all the sugar in and have it sit at the side of the bowl, and then it's not like really getting that like incorporation in. Does that make sense? Sometimes when we dump stuff in, it kind of sits on one side or the other. So we're just going at level 4 for 2 minutes, and it's just hanging out. And usually in this time, I'll prep my piping bag. So I am so old school, and I cannot not use a coupler. So there's like all these new young pastry. I mean, I'm not old. I'm 45. I'm not old, but I just feel like my grandma taught me, and I'm gonna stick with it. So coupler goes in my bag. I use a Wilton 16-inch reusable bag. Yes, I use one bag. I can make 12 batches in a day. I use one bag, all 12 batches. I start with my lightest color and I progressively go down to my darker so I'm not wasting, and then I wash it and use it another day. They really are reusable even though they're plastic. And I have my Wilton 12 tip. Tried and true. I've tried 10. I've tried 1, M. I've tried them all. Wilton 12 is what it is. That coupler does not fit. Can I get a new one? That does not fit. And if I didn't catch that, this would have gone straight into a Mac, and then it would have been a mess on there. So the fastener did not want to screw down on there, so that's why we're having her grab another one. Okay, so then we're at another 2 minutes at 6. It's rocket science so far, right? Look, if I can do this, you can do it. True story about me, I own 20 KitchenAids, 20. And I have one in every color, and they all beat at a different frequency, believe it or not. So you just have to figure out what works for you. This one's completely different than my one at home. As long as it's around 126 rotations a minute on 4, you'll be good. Sometimes older machines, the cogs don't work. So either they'll speed up or they'll slow down. Oh, thank you. Thank you. So 126 at 4. A Bosch, I have Bosch instructions on the site. So Bosch, I do the ingredients different, not because the recipe's different, because I want you to pay attention to the instructions. So working with the Bosch has a 2 spindle, it beats twice as fast, so you have to make some adjustments. Yeah, but it does work on a Bosch. Right, in my town I'm at 4,000 square feet, 4,000 feet. Here we're about 4,000 feet. I made them in Park City. I made them, I hiked up my mixer to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro. No, it should be fine. It should be fine. You may have to add 30 seconds onto your beating time on the last frequency, but that would be it, and I'll show you what to look for to know whether or not you need to. So you can see we're gone from a clear egg white, do you see that? So now it's kind of solidifying. We're going to beat this to a stiff peak. This is what I would call the mucus stage. Who likes not? Not me. Keep going. This is very loose. We want it very stiff. But it will get there. Trust me. You want to make sure you have 0 egg yolk in your egg whites. It's kind of like if you burn garlic and you try to recover it. There's no recovering that. Throw it out and try again. So our last minute is up to 8. And now we're really going to see the volume increase in here, and the egg whites are going to get thick.
Are hardened egg whites? Can you use carton egg whites, or does it need to be fresh? Fresh better?
Fresh is much better. We've tried carton and we got gaping hollows. Yeah.
I have the other KitchenAid that goes up and down.
Yep, the lift bowl, you're just fine. Same, everything in place. Yep. Yep. One more question over here. Did I see a hand? No? Okay, so now I'm going to sift my ingredients, right? We're almost done with the mixing, so sifting is what we need to do. This is finely sifted powdered sugar, but it is some kind of voodoo that if you were a Mac maker, you need to re-sift this finely sifted powdered sugar. I don't understand, but here I am conforming to the rule. So I sift this powdered sugar just like that.
Hey Barb, on live they're asking what size mixer this is. And
This is a 5-quart.
Makes a difference.
5-quart and the 4.5 quart. The only difference is the motor size and a little bit of the bowl size. So it should be the same. Okay, this is not ready. What does that look like? All right then. I'm not gonna hold it up to my face. I did that once in a class. Someone caught that on film, and I will forever be the snot lady online. Of all things to go viral, that was it. So we're gonna beat this a little bit longer. Like I said, sometimes if the egg whites are colder, you'll see. You'll see the bowl, and then you'll understand. Okay, so I'm sifting in the almond flour. This helps make your shells smooth, right? So again, I'm super technical about it. Sifted that so perfectly. Did you see it?
Yeah.
And then this cocoa powder is so fine. I'm not even going to play that. So in goes the cocoa powder. Now I can talk why I did that, which is amazing because I'm not, me. But don't. At home, keep an eye on this. Because if you overbeat it, you're done. That's good. See how stiff it is? And I can even probably get it to stand straight up, maybe. Anyways, you get the point. It's very stiff, okay? You saw what it was before. That's not okay. You saw what it is now. If I kept beating this and you pull out your mixer and it's chunky, it's like chunking off, game over. Just start over. Otherwise, what will happen is you will use the $13 of almond flour and you'll use the $7 of cocoa, and you'll have to throw out the batch after you bake it. So I'm just helping you out, saving you some money. If you've taken it past beyond the point, you'll have splotchy tops where you can stick your finger right through them. They'll stick to the bottom of your baking sheet. Is that my timer?
It's the oven, yep.
It's just no good. I don't have hot mitts in here, do I? Okay, watch me burn my hand. Okay, so how we know they're ready? I'm gonna wiggle it just a little bit. It's not wiggling, so we're good. So these Macs are perfection, right? I use a no rest method. I'll keep talking about that. Those Macs are bulletproof.
So I wiggle it like it won't move off the pan.
So the top will move off the feet if it's not ready.
Okay.
Like that, the physical shell of this top will move. Yeah. So these are going in. And I cook my chocolate ones a little bit longer. Reset it another timer. I braved it with my wet cloth. Okay, so now we have our egg whites that are stiff. We have our very fine sifted everything to perfection. You saw me do it. We know it's true. It's not true. I lied. And then in goes one into the other, right? Oh, can someone grab me a gear spatula? Sorry, I'm so particular. I'm such a spatula snob. I can only use gear. It looks like it's pronounced gur. And if you say gur on Instagram, they will not retag you because you sound like a bear. But gear spatulas are my favorite. They have an ergonomically correct handle. When I'm making 12, 15 batches a day, that matters. Carpal tunnel is it's real. It's real in the macaron. So I use the spatula that I love. And I actually stole the last one out of the Geeky Kitchen because it's a color I didn't have. Oh. No. Ask Randall. Say, Randall, Barb needs her spatula. Yes, this is not the spoonula though. Sorry. Spoonula gear spatula. I feel like such a jerk right now. Go find that.
You've got your cookie sheet upside down. Is that for the better airflow?
That's airflow. Yeah. So if you notice some troubleshooting, if you notice your Macs are cracking or they're lopsided, that's airflow issue, right? So I bake all my pans upside down to keep that rim from blocking that airflow. And I do that because I do not rest my Macs. So resting your Macs means that you let your Mac sit until you can run your finger across the top and that shell has created like a film, right? I don't do that. I make too many Macs. I ain't got enough hours in the day for that. So I just throw mine right into the oven, and to help with all of that, I flip my pans upside down.
But if you do rest them,
If I do rest them, I still,
it's
it's like beat into me at this point. Yeah.
Use regular or convection?
So convection has a fan.
Right.
It will blow your Macs lopsided. Thank you. This is it, y'all. Like I said, I stole the last one from them, so they had to go get another one. Anyways, okay. Heather, I did not steal. I borrowed, and I will return it at some point in my life. Convection has a fan. So you want to make sure that fan is really turned down low, or if you can't, you usually skip piping the row that's going to be closest to the fan. It will literally blow your Macs right over, whether they're rested or not. I use a conventional oven, normal, nothing fancy about my oven. I bake one pan at a time because I'm superstitious. And every time you open that oven, it's 20 degrees lost. And people say, you can bake too, you just have to open the oven and flip them halfway through. Well, in my brain, that doesn't make sense because then I'm losing 20 degrees, and then do I bake them longer? Do I have to flip them? Like, it's just too much for me, so I just go with what I know. I use steel pans. Now, I got these on my wedding 23 years ago, and I have found some comparisons to now's market, and I have all of those on Instagram. Look for those little highlight bubbles. One of them says pans, and I'll I should tell you what is closest to what I use. Yeah, these are aluminum. They work just fine. Look, we just made them with aluminum. You just sometimes have to cook them up to a minute longer, or get your oven a little hotter. Okay, aluminum heats up really fast, but it cools down really fast. Steel pans heat up slowly and they retain their heat. So even after you pull them out, they're still getting some of that cook time, right? Yeah. Okay. So this is called macaronaging. How you spell it, does it have an A, does it not have an A? I don't know. I get more harassment on Instagram for not putting an A in there sometimes than I do about anything else. So just, spell it. All spelling's welcome. But this is the art of macaronaging. Now I am folding. Do you see that? Or maybe it's better if it's on.
Right there's good.
Okay, so I fold in, and I always set my bowl on its side, because this shoulder, this is 2 hands worth of work, right? I'm holding this handle. This is 1 hand worth of work, okay? So I just, for my sanity and the sake of my body, I just do it that way. Okay, so this is how we know if this macaronage is ready. It's gonna come off in a continuous stream. It's gonna pull like it is almost like a V. Can you front rowers down there see it? So it pulls in like it's a V, but the weight of it keeps it a continuous. It doesn't have to be fast. Okay, people describe this as lava. I've never seen lava up close. No, thank you. So I'm just telling you what to look for without being privy to knowing what lava looks like. So here it's moving. It's not fast. It's continuous. Do we see this? And it looks like it's pulling off into the V. This is ready. Okay, it doesn't have to be this fast flowing macaronage. What happens if you over macaronage? You're done. They will turn out like flat pancakes, probably what Heather experienced maybe that first time at that baby shower, but it won't hold its shape. It won't hold the structure. There will be nothing to hold, right? So a sign of a good mac is it has perfectly turned out feet. Sometimes they're smaller, sometimes they're taller. That depends on resting time. The bottoms are smooth, right? It came off that mat perfectly. You saw that? And the top is sturdy. I'm not sticking my finger through that top, okay? Those are the signs of a good mac. If this cookie is a little bit hollow inside, I'm not worried about that. It's not though. Okay, but I'm not worried about a little gap. That's just more room for filling, right? I'm not a flamingo. I don't have a gap. But it's fine if you do. Like, just stick filling in there, okay? So this is like the perfect cookie. So if you over macaronage though, you will not have that result. You'll have a much flatter cookie. It'll probably stick to the bottom, or your finger will be able to go through the top.
You would not use parchment at all?
You can use parchment, absolutely. The differences between parchment and silpat holds the structure, right? It's actually a textured mat. So when you use parchment, the spot where your feet meet the top of your shell is going to be wavy. It's going to be completely wavy. So it's not going to be like this uniform streamline line. Also, the bottom will be wavy. So when you line your macs up for that photo shoot at the end, because you're so proud, it'll just look like a bunch of different lines. They won't look as beautiful, but they'll be tasty just the same. Okay, so now we're going to load up our bag. How am I doing on time? I talk so much and I just get going and then it's just game over for you guys. Sorry. Okay, so I use just a cup. And I stick my bag and it's just a perfect spot in there. Okay, and it's easy to come out pretty easily. And then I am going to pour in my macaronage. And I use about half, and I'll tell you why. When I was first starting and not understanding the ergonomics of your wrist, I would fill this bag with everything I got. I'm like, I can do it in one shot. But then the bag was so overfull that my hand was holding it like this with all of its pressure. And I literally was the most attractive bride. I was sleeping with 2 like wrist holders, like don't touch me, I'm sleeping. My hands were pretty messed up. So then I made some adjustments and now I'm good. So, okay, so here's, we still see that? So I have 1 template here, but I have 2 mats. So I have 1 template, but I need to pipe 2 sheets. So I stuck a non-template one on top, and I'm gonna pipe on this, and then I'm gonna transfer it. It's gonna be magic. It's not gonna turn out now that I said it, but I'll show you. So if you only have one template sheet, you're fine. If you have one that's not, this is how you remedy that. Okay? Am I still on camera here? Okay. These counters are much taller than what I'm used to at home, so I'm gonna go really slow. I twist my bag and I hold it with this hand. This hand is applying all the pressure when I'm piping. This hand is guiding, okay? And I'll show that now. Can you guys, let me move this mixer so you guys over here can see. Thank you. Big Red has left the building. Okay, can you see better now? No, let me move these ingredients too. Okay, everyone now, can you see?
No.
Yeah? Everyone can see? Okay, so piping is kind of tricky, right? Can we agree on that? Do you want me to show you what not to do or just what to do?
No, what to do?
What to do? Because if I tell you what not, it's like you don't know everything that can go wrong in life until someone tells you, by the way, did you know? And then that's all you think about. So I'm going to teach you just what to do, and then we'll all be friends. Okay. So I twist the top of my bag. I hold it with this one. I'm guiding with this one. Just one fingertip holds the bag in place, right? So I am piping. Do you see where my tip is? It's right above. I am piping and holding that tip in position. And then I'm stopping any sort of pressure and I'm swirling that tip back in, okay? I'm gonna do this 100 times so you can see and really get it. But sometimes, I feel like I gotta show you one. Sometimes this is what happens. We apply pressure and it's going so good and then we pull up, right? And then that cookie alone is gonna cook like that. And then if it's stacked next to a box of cookies, that cookie's gonna crack its buddy next to them. So it just helps if you can either fix it with your finger or with your scribe. I have a toothpick today because I couldn't find a scribe. But you wanna make sure you're burying that tip, okay? That way it doesn't, if you cook them like that, they'll just crack all their box mates and it's no good. So I'm gonna pipe again, applying pressure, stopping all pressure, swirling that tip back in. If I go faster, I can get it. And I can't talk while I do it. Sorry. Nope, not that one. Let go of pressure, swirl it back in. I am just not. Okay, hold on. I gotta redeem myself here. I gotta make myself the professional again. There we go. Do you see how I'm doing that?
So you're saying don't lift the, when you're pipetting like that, don't lift it, keep it at the same level?
Keep it at the same height above the mat. Don't go down to the bottom. We'll show you what happens there. You're making, it's not the same structure. Okay, we're also not doing one of these. That looks like the poop emoji, if I'm being honest. Okay, we're not doing those two things. We're holding, and I'll flip it over. We're holding the bag above the mat, piping, letting go of all the pressure and swirling that tip back in. Does that make sense? Any questions on this? Oh, yes.
So I have a really hard time having my mats be all the same size. Do you have a trick for that? Or?
Use a templated mat. Now,
I still have a hard time.
So I usually stop just barely within that medium line, right? Max are 2 inches. So I stop there and I swirl. So I'm stopping right before and I'm swirling. Now let me tell you what I do. We have to get all the air bubbles out. So by the time it's rested, it's gonna reach that 2-inch diameter, okay? So pipe a little bit inside that. If it's running more than that, you have a macaronage problem.
Oh, okay.
You've maybe over macaronage and that batter can't hold its structure. See how this batter's holding its structure? Sometimes when we overbeat, we're deflating all the air we put in those egg whites, right? And that just creates a soupy sales mess. So make sure maybe macaronage less. Here's what happens when you macaronage less. You might have a crack through your feet. You might not have beautiful feet, but you have a cookie. If you over macaronage, you have nothing. So if you're worried about it, err to the side of caution and under macaronage. Remember, the heat of my hand is still macaronaging this bag. I am heating up these egg whites. They are deflating in my hand. So you want to take that into account as well. under Macaronage if you're worried. Under Macaronage every time, okay? Any other questions on that? I thought I saw another hand. No? We're all feeling good and comfortable with this? We made it. We're friends? Okay, so then I'm just gonna pipe the rest of these, and then I'll talk about the filling. Now, and then also, I didn't talk about air bubbles, but we'll talk about that now. So the way that mac cooks is it steams inside of this shell, which is really bizarre that I can bake these without resting them, because that's like, what? That's a no, but you can. So what happens is the steam is gonna escape out the feet. That's how this cookie works. If you are making macs, or how many of you have made macs before? Raise your hand. Have you ever pulled up your mac and it's literally concave and the flesh is stuck to the top and there's no bottom? That means the steam went out the bottom, and that means we've got a temperature issue. There wasn't enough heat to seal that mac all at one time. If you watch how a mac cooks, the feet develop last. First it secures the bottom, then it moves the top up. That's how it works, and the steam comes out the feet. That's how sometimes you'll have holes in your feet. Sometimes they're bigger than others. That means we didn't get all the air bubbles out. If you have cracked tops, that could be an airflow issue. That's why I bake with my pans upside down, to eliminate that one thing that could go wrong. So if you're in your kitchen, you're like, Barb, mine are not turning out. R&D your process. Keep any variable you can the same and change one component every time. So make your batch the same way. Pipe it the same way. Maybe flip your pans upside down this time. But don't be 30 seconds longer and flip your pans, because then you don't know which one worked, right? So really, macs are about just discovering how your equipment works different than mine, because everything else should be the base, right? Everything else should be the same variable. Also, what I love to do, if you're finding that you have gaping hollows in your macs, that's an oven temp issue. That is not your batter issue. So what I do is I will take one batch, all the same friends, and I'll pipe them on 4 different trays and do different temps and times on my oven. First, I'll do different temps. So I'll start at 285, 290, 295, letting the oven preheat itself for a good 5 minutes in between. When your oven beeps, it is not technically all the way preheated. It's close, right? So after my oven says, hey, I'm ready, I give it a good 10 more minutes. Because it doesn't matter for like a tater tot casserole, though I've never made one, so I don't really know if that's true. But it does matter when we're dealing with a finicky cookie, okay? So get those ovens good and preheated. If you're finding that your cookies are crunchy and they don't have that soft bite, start taking the temperature down, but pipe the same batch, 4 different trays. Just do the 2 middle rows and try different temps on one batch. Do it again and try different times on the temp you figured out.
So you have the 4 trays, does it matter how long they sit out and rest?
Rest, it'll just affect the feet.
Okay.
Yeah, just affect the feet. It should not affect the flesh.
What do you mean when you say R&D?
Like recipe development, so like it's just a technical term, sorry. When you change all the variables to figure out what works for your equipment, yeah. So you're just experimenting and experimenting, yeah. So anyway, so we tap these. You don't need to go to town. They'll be fine. I mean, you see those people that are like beating them, and I'm like, those poor cookies. Like, what did they do to you? Nothing. So, but you do want to just make sure those air bubbles are popped. And sometimes you can see air bubbles forming. Make sure to get those too. This is what helps make that smooth top. Otherwise, if you check some of my reels, you'll see the dimpled tops when I got really lazy. You'll also see the pinned comments when people are calling me out. I love it. I'm just like, yes, I was lazy. Let's address it and we can move on. So you just kind of like, I mean, in here I have a toothpick. I have a cute scribe at home. If you have one of those tips, you're just going to like smooth it into the batter to try to like get that point out of it. Okay. Does that make sense why we don't want those points? Because they'll break their box mate if you stack them next to each other and you're like, here's a beautiful box to your boss, and he's like, these are all broken. And you're like, well, the intention was good, you know, like, so this just eliminates that. Yeah.
What is a scribe?
A scribe is like just a pointy tool that sugar cookie royal icing users use. It's just a tool. It's called a scribe, but they move around their royal icing like magicians. Front row over there, and they get them all smooth and beautiful. You know, like
It's like a metal toothpick.
it's like a metal toothpick that you can wash, but same thing. It just has a very fine point to like move around and smooth out surfaces. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Last chance.
Last time I tried to make chocolate macs, they wrinkled on the top. And I used that chocolate and I thought maybe it was because it had too much fat in it. So
How much
that's not the-
chocolate did you use?
I thought I used your recipe, but maybe I didn't.
So I use barely 10 grams, right? Barely 10 grams. We are not using the shell to be a vehicle for the flavor. We're using the buttercream for that. We just want a chocolate beautiful shell. Is that my timer?
That's your timer. Oh, we're here now.
Oh, hi. We just want the shell to look like it tastes chocolatey. It's not going to be like a fudgesicle in there. It's just going to have a mild chocolate flavor. You want to get those out? Oh, you want to? Okay. No, I'm not going to wish that on you because pulling out an upside down pan, I should put this on my resume because it takes talent. You want to grab the lip of it, see? Otherwise it will fly onto the floor and you'll be like, did I just really do that? Yeah. See these are good. This one's quite funny for me. I have like a spot in there, but I'm checking them. Oh, it's a little wiggly, but I'm not going to worry about it. It's going to be okay.
How many pans have you dropped?
So my silk hat mats just slide off. And so probably 7, 8 maybe. And I'll just stare at it for a while and I'll watch TV maybe and just rest. Yeah. I definitely am very open about my fails on Instagram. I will show you. I am not a perfect account, but I think that's why I connect with so many of you because I'm not afraid to show when things go terribly wrong. Yeah.
Can I see how you move it?
Yeah.
So, did you just pick it up and
Oh.
move it if you like pipe on top of one and then have to move it?
Yeah.
for your-
Oh, did I not? Where did I baked it with, oh no, here it is, right here. Okay, sorry. I was like, wait, did I? No. So if you bake it to silk hat mats, they won't turn out. Okay. You grab the sides. And you want to do this right after you pipe. Otherwise, the shell will form. There is one cookie in here where there's a crack through it. It's because when I was moving it, I cracked it. Not because it cracked in the oven. So you take all 4 fingers and you just move it over. And then I only have 4 steel pans and I have 30 Orsingigi aluminum pans. So when I'm done, I'll show you how I transfer them. So I have this huge baking rack and I keep them rim up on my baking rack because obviously I'm accident prone. So I take one and usually they're very hot because I need the oven tray and I'll slide them. It goes better than this. But then they're right side up. So then I can use my other steel pans for all the other batches. Yeah. Any other questions?
If you have aluminum pans, can you bake with those?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I bake with mine all the time. When I want to make white macs, aluminum only, right? Steel holds that heat in and it will turn your white macs a shade of tan. So aluminum, when I need those really bright, vibrant bride weddings, I did a wedding for a birthday party for a celebrity. I needed to make sure that color was on point, aluminum only. Aluminum only. I do cook 30 seconds to a minute longer. Yeah.
So if the heat from your hands is still macaronaging when it's in your hand, is it pretty much done? Like if you...
So if you're finding that you're having fails and you're doing everything right, macaronage less, and then your hand will literally, I am literally, egg whites are all air. The batter we had is all air. So as I'm applying pressure, the heat, we're kicking all that air out. So you want to just, I always advise doing this process as fast as you can. Doesn't mean you have to use your whole batter fast. This bag can sit here and be fine. But when you're macaronaging with the heat of your hand, do that as fast as you can. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so I'm just going to briefly talk about the filling. This is not the fillings class. That's next class. You're here for me for 2 hours. I love ya. Okay, so I made a ganache, and this is just what it looks like when it's sat for a minute. But I mixed chocolate with cream and a little bit of butter, submersion blender, and this is my chocolate ganache center for these Macs right here. Okay, this chocolate ganache recipe is on my site now. It'll be on my site. Maybe Orson Gigi will even link to it. Okay, so we'll have it up for you. But this is just all chocolate ganache is. It's just straight up chocolate.
And you were telling me yesterday that you make it with the immersion blender?
I make it with the immersion blender, and let me tell you why. If you are just using a whisk, which is fantastic, but then you go to pipe it and you didn't get all those chocolate pieces melted, it clogs up your tip repeatedly. So then you're just cursing, and now you have a mess because you blew out your bag because you're applying too much pressure. So I just say use the submersion blender. It smooths everything out and makes your chocolate so glossy and beautiful. Not that anyone's seeing it really, but it tastes different, I think. So it's aerated and it's
Like a blend check or like the actual?
So
I'll grab them.
the kind that can take your finger off if you use the wrong button when separating them. Yeah, it has like a long rod and then like this whole little. My husband actually did this. He's an oral surgeon. He had his finger in there, clicked the button to undo it, but didn't know, and clicked the power button and sliced up his finger. That is a submersion blender.
Immersion.
Immersion. Unplug it before you disconnect it.
A lot of them have 2 speeds. Is your best speed
This
for-
one, mine just has 1 speed, and I just pulse it.
Slow is better than.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. You just want to really incorporate all that chocolate. And then also on the website is my salted caramel recipe. I just keep it in a jar. I make it probably once a month, maybe twice. I keep it in a jar and then I just pop this in the microwave for 20 seconds so it can move. I mean, it looks pretty like solid here. And I mix it with my buttercream, and that's my salted caramel buttercream recipe, okay? Oh yeah. I freeze mine before I fill. Once I fill, they have a maturing process. They're like toddlers. They need some time to mature. So I fill and I mature them overnight in my fridge. And then you can freeze them at that point, but I try not to freeze them after they've been filled. I want my product as fresh and as most delicious as possible. Yeah.
So how long can you freeze them before you fill them? How long do they
Months. You can have shells. I have a personal rule. I don't like to go over 2 weeks, but people keep them in there for months. People keep macarons in there. The ones from Costco, you guys, those are not made the day before. They're made months before, and you buy them out of the freezer. So they're fine in the freezer. I just have a personal quality of standard that I won't compromise, and that's just me.
When they're maturing in the fridge, do you cover them before you put them in the
Airtight container always. Airtight container always. They will absorb the smells of your fridge. So you have some broccoli rabe in there, you're eating some broccoli rabe max. But never store them on the counter. They will go stale so fast, 12 hours maybe, and they're
So I need
stale.
to clarify, you mature them and then fill them?
Nope. Maturing process is when you fill.
Oh.
That is the maturing process. So you fill them and then they're maturing.
So how long do you let them sit before you fill them?
I usually, so one day I'll bake 1,200 shells.
Mm-hmm.
One day I'll fill 1,200 shells. I'll put those in the fridge and I package and I deliver. Or if I need it for a wedding or an event where they need to travel, like these did, I'll pop them back in the freezer and then I wrap them up in a newborn and ice packs and the whole 9 yards, and I basically use the whole back seat for them. Yeah. So they're very delicate, but freezing just prolongs the life of them. They can be in the fridge for up to a week and still be good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Unfilled.
Unfilled? Yeah, if they're unfilled, pop them in the freezer.
But they'll be in the fridge.
Yeah,
for
but
weeks.
yeah, these will be filled in the fridge for a week. They'll be fine. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
Yeah, if you use a fruit or lemon curd, does it make the shells soggy?
It does. So I use a layer of buttercream on the bottom of the shell. Yeah. Is there a knife in this kitchen somewhere?
I can get what?
How am I doing on time? So here's my mac, right? I could freeze these shells before I want to fill them. Say I want to make Max for Susie's baby shower in 2 weeks. I'm nervous about it. So I'm trying shells today, and they turned out great. So then airtight container, oh no, just like a butter knife.
You asked for a
I'm
knife
so
in the kitchen. What do you
Cut my
think
finger off. I just
what do
need
you
a
think
butter.
go with?
I just need a butter knife, please. I mean, that could be extra. That would be really extra. Am I still on camera right here? Okay. I'll show you how I fill these. But once they're filled, then they're breaking through this bottom barrier, and that moisture in that buttercream is like hydrating the flesh of the cookie. We've dried it out. We've baked it. So now we're hydrating it by putting in a filling, okay? This is where I make crumble fillings. I do all sorts of bananas of fillings, right? So here's what I do if I would have a fruit or a jam. I would pipe a little bit of buttercream on each.
Hold on, can you reach forward a tiny bit?
There? Am I there? And I would just
hold your tongue to the left.
That's
You
tricky.
can.
Michael Jordan it a little bit. So I just put down that barrier. See it? See it? See it, camera? Like, how many cameras do I need to make sure? And then I'm piping the ring around. So I have a completely sealed off barrier, right? And then I would add the chocolate ganache center. This is usually in a piping bag. I'm gonna make a mess of it now. And then I sprinkle some sea salt on there. And then I nestle that in. Okay, and then I won't ask you for another knife. I'll make this one work.
Good answer.
There's what we look like when we're all done. That camera, this view, that camera, got it. Okay, so that's Max 101 basically in a demo class.